Jambo Africa, receive my fraternal Pan-African greetings right here from Moi International Sports Center, Kasarani Stadium, here in Nairobi. This is Honourable Media Africa. My name is Hesbon Mareithi. Karibu, welcome to the 8th edition of this very special, very unique Africa Continental Football Tournament, the African Nations Championship, that is being hosted jointly by 3 East African nations, the Republic of Kenya, the Republic of Uganda, and the United Republic of Tanzania. So why am I describing this tournament as special and unique? CHAN is a uniquely special continental football tournament for Africa because it's specifically and specially made for homegrown and home-based African footballers, or those African footballers who play football in their home countries or with football clubs in their home countries, meaning that anyone who plays football outside their home country across the 55 nations of Africa does not qualify to take part in this particular tournament. It's specifically and strictly meant and made to showcase, promote, and champion homegrown and home-based football talent across Africa. And that's why, as I said in the beginning, Team Kenya or Harambee Stars, the squad or the team that will be representing Kenya in this particular CHAN, will be playing without some of their best players. That includes the captain of Harambee Stars and the current top scorer of Harambee Stars, that is Michael Olunga, because Michael Olunga plays football with a club based in Qatar, so he's not qualified to take part, or rather to take part in this particular tournament. Other important Harambee Stars players who will not be participating in this particular tournament include the likes of Duke Abuya, who plays football with Yanga, a fantastic football club in just here in our next door neighbor, the United Republic of Tanzania. Others who will miss out include the youngster Mohamed Bajaber, who just a week ago completed his move to Simba SC, another fantastic football club in Tanzania. Others who will be missing include another youngster, a Kenyan youngster, that is Aldrin Kibet, who recently was signed by Celta, a club based in Spain. Many other Kenyan footballers who do not qualify to take part in CHAN because they do not play football in Kenya include the likes of John Avire, who plays football with El Seka in Egypt, Eric Otieno, who plays football in Poland, Runi Onyango, who plays football in Norway, Daniel Anyembe, who plays football in Denmark, and Richard Odada, who plays football in Belgrade, among many others who do not qualify to take part in CHAN, because CHAN is a competition that is especially, strictly and specifically made for home-based, homegrown African footballers to showcase their talent on a continental level. To give you a little bit of history of these, a very unique, very special and very important Africa Continental Football Tournament. The very first edition, or the inaugural edition of this football competition, was played in the year 2009 in Ivory Coast, and it was won by the Leopards of DR Congo. The Leopards of DR Congo, the ones who will be playing an opening match against Team Kenya here at Kasarani International Stadium. The Leopards of DR Congo are the ones who won the inaugural, or the first edition, in Ivory Coast back in the year 2009. The defending champions are the Teranga Lions, the Lions of Teranga from Senegal, who won the 2023 edition in Algeria, where they managed to beat the hosts, the Desert Foxes, of Algeria on penalty shootouts, and thereby becoming the winners of the most recent edition of CHAN. That is the 7th edition in the year 2023. Once again, welcome to this edition of CHAN, hosted jointly by Kenya, Uganda and Tanzania, and we will be here. Honourable Media Africa will be here at Kasarani Stadium to bring you every beat, every kick of this game, starting on the first Saturday of August. Honourable Media Africa will be here to bring you all the games, all the kicks, all the goals, and all the moves, the pomp, the colour of this very important game, African Nations Championship. Honourable Media Africa has been a leading media in promoting, advocating and championing for African football since the year 2018. And we are here in the year 2025 to once again bring you the best of Africa's home-based and homegrown football talent. Karibuni sana, welcome. This particular edition, the 8th edition of African Nations Championship, CHAN 2025, has a total of 19 nations. 19 African nations have qualified to play in this tournament. That includes the hosts, Kenya, Tanzania and Uganda. Kenya is participating in this particular tournament for the very first time, the historic first time. Kenya, or Harambee Stars, has never qualified for CHAN. And this will be their historic first appearance, courtesy of being the host of this tournament. Because as you know, in all football tournaments or football competitions, the hosts of any tournament qualify automatically. So Kenya will be playing for the very first time in this tournament here at Kasarani International Stadium. Another first-timer or another debutant in this tournament is the Central African Republic. That is the other nation that will be participating for the very first time in this tournament. This particular edition, the 8th edition of CHAN, a total of 19 African nations have qualified to take part in this edition, and they are all pooled into some 4 groups: Group A, Group B, Group C, and Group D. And Team Kenya, the Harambee Stars of Kenya, the owners of this particular stadium here, where the finals of CHAN will be played here. They are currently pooled alongside some heavyweights and some champions of CHAN. That includes the Atlas Lions of Morocco, the Leopards of Congo, DRC, the Sable Antelopes of Angola, and the Chipolopolo, or the Copper Bullets of Zambia. Those are the teams that Harambee Stars has been pulled in Group A. And this seems to be the toughest groups, going by the fact that the Atlas Lions of Morocco are 2 times champions of CHAN. The Leopards of DR Congo are also 2 times champions of CHAN. The Sable Antelopes of Angola were at 1 time runners-up in this competition. And the Chipolopolo, or the Copper Bullets of Zambia, were at one time the runners-up in this competition. So this is being seen as one of the toughest group in this competition, and in football terms, this is what people refer to as the group of death in football. So Team Kenya, or Harambee Stars, has to put, they have a duty to put their A game, because they'll be playing alongside the best of the best in this particular competition, especially in the group stages of this competition. Because, as I said, the Atlas Lions of Morocco, they won the 2018, they were the winners of the 2018 and the 2020 editions of CHAN. The Leopards of Congo, again, they were the winners of the inaugural, the first edition in 2009, and they later won this particular tournament in the 2016 edition. The Sable Antelopes of Angola finished second. They were the runners-up in the 2011 edition. And the Chipolopolo, or the Copper Bullets of Zambia, they were the 3rd place finishers in actually the inaugural edition back in the year 2009. So Kenya is currently pooled alongside some of the best, the heavyweights, the giants of African football. The opening ceremony of this particular edition of CHAN will be held this Saturday at exactly 8 p.m. at Benjamin Mkapa Stadium in Dar es Salaam, Tanzania. That is where the opening ceremony will be, and the first game will be played in that particular stadium, the Benjamin Mkapa Stadium, between the hosts, the Taifa Stars of the United Republic of Tanzania, up against the Stallions of Burkina Faso. That will be the first game this Saturday at exactly 8 p.m. That is after the official opening ceremony of this edition, the 8th edition of the African Nations Championship in Tanzania. The third place playoff, that is the game that determines who is the third placed winner of this tournament, will be played in Nelson Mandela National Stadium, that is in Kampala, Uganda. And the grand finale, the closing ceremony and the grand finale of this particular edition of CHAN will be held right here where I'm standing in Kasarani International Stadium here in Nairobi. This is where the closing ceremony will be held, and most importantly, the final game to determine the winner of this particular edition of CHAN. That will be on the last Saturday of this month, the last Saturday of August. That is on the 30th of August 2025. In this particular stadium, the winner of this particular edition, the 8th edition of CHAN, will be determined right here where I'm at Moi Kasarani International Sports Center, Kasarani Stadium in Nairobi on the 30th of August. A few other stadiums will host different games in the group stages and the knockouts. A few games will be played, as I said, in Nyayo National Stadiums on the other side of Nairobi. A few other games will be played in Aman Stadium, that is in Tanzania's island of Zanzibar. And a couple of other games, as I said, will be played still in Uganda. Those are the 5 main venues of this competition. Let's talk about CHAN money bag, or what is there to play for in terms of prize money in this particular edition, the 8th edition of CHAN. So how much is there for the 19 African nations to fight for in this particular edition of CHAN? Before we begin, the CAF, the organization that manages African football, that is the Confederation of African Football, has actually increased the prize money in this particular edition of CHAN by a whopping 75%, meaning that for the first time, the winner of this edition, the 8th edition of CHAN, the winner who will be determined right here at Kasarani Stadium in Nairobi on 30th August, will take home a whopping 452.2 Kenya million shillings. That is 452.2 million Kenya shillings. That is up from 258 compared to the earnings of the last edition, that is the 7th edition of CHAN. The winner of this particular edition, as I said, will take home 452 million Kenya shillings. That is up from 258.2 million shillings. The defending champions, that is the Teranga Lions of Senegal, who are coming into this particular edition of CHAN as the defending champions, having won the 7th edition in Algeria, they bagged, or they took home 258.2 million Kenya shillings. But this time round, the winner of this edition, who will be determined right here where I'm at here in Kasarani Stadium, will take home a whopping 452.2 million Kenya shillings, 452.2 million Kenya shillings. That is about 48 million Kenya shillings shy of $500 million Kenya shillings. The runners-up, or number 2, or those who will lose in the final match right here, those are the runners-up, will take home 155 million Kenya shillings. That's the runners-up. The third place winner will be determined in Kampala at Nelson Mandela National Stadium in Kampala. The third place winner will take home 90.4 million Kenya shillings. The fourth place winner, the team, the African nation that will finish at the fourth place, will take home 77.5 million Kenya shillings. All the quarterfinalists, all the nations that will make it to the quarterfinals of this particular tournament, will take home 58.1 million million Kenya shillings each. Some four third place finishers in the group stages. The African nations who will finish third in each of the four groups in the group stage matches of this particular tournament will take home 38.7 million Kenya shillings. And most importantly, the last or the bottom nation, the bottom African nations in some three special groups in this particular tournament. That is Group A, where Kenya is, Group B, and Group C. Those are the three groups that have 5 nations or 5 teams each. The team that will finish at the bottom, or the very last team in each of those groups, will not go home empty-handed, despite having lost nearly all of the games, because finishing at the bottom of a group means that the team almost lost all their group match fixtures, but they'll still take home something. Each of the bottom team in those 3 special groups, that is Group A, Group B, and C, will take home 25.8 million Kenya shillings. That is merely money for just taking part or participating in this particular tournament. So basically, that is the money back. That is the prize money. That is the prize money to be played for in this particular edition of African Nations Championship. Once again, I want to emphasize that the grand winner, the champion of this particular tournament, will take home 452.2 million Kenya shillings. That is up from 258.2 million Kenya shillings that the Lions of Teranga took home in 2023 after winning the 7th edition in Algeria, where they managed to beat Algeria in a penalty shootout after finishing 0-0 in regulation time. So that is what is there to be played for. And Team Kenya, Harambee Stars, who are debutants or will be taking part for the very first time, the historic first appearance in this particular tournament. If they manage to defy history and go all the way and actually win this particular tournament right here, because this is where this is the stadium that will host the very final game, they will take home 452.2 million Kenya shillings. That is what is there to be played for. That is what is there to be fought for, to be gunned for in terms of prize money, thanks to the leadership of the Confederation of African Football, led by the very able President Patrice Motsepe, having increased the prize money for this particular edition by a whopping 75%. This particular edition of African Nations Championship, the 8th edition, is going to be a rehearsal or a warm-up for the 3 East African nations, that is the Republic of Kenya, the Republic of Uganda, and the United Republic of Tanzania, because the 3 nations have equally been chosen by CAF to host Africa's biggest, Africa's highest, and Africa's most prestigious Continental Football Tournament. That is the oncoming 36th edition of Africa Cup of Nations, AFCON, the 36th edition, which will be played in the year 2027. It will be hosted by Kenya, Uganda, and Tanzania, the 3 hosts who are hosting this particular edition of CHAN. They will be hosting Africa's biggest, Africa's highest, and the most prestigious continental football tournament in Africa, the 36th edition of AFCON in the year 2027. The year 2027 will be a historic year in the calendar of AFCON, because it will be marking 70 years of AFCON games, because the first or the inaugural edition of AFCON was played back in February, the year 1957, in the city of Khartoum in Sudan. That was 70 years ago. In 2027, AFCON will be marking 70 years of African football at the highest level, at the greatest level, and at the most prestigious level, having been held, as I said, for the first time on February 1957 in Khartoum, Sudan. So basically CHAN, or this particular edition of CHAN, is going to be a warm-up. It's going to be a rehearsal for Kenya, Uganda and Tanzania in their preparedness, their readiness to host the 36th edition of AFCON, Africa Cup of Nations, in the year 2027. Before we wind up, before we close, I have made a critical observation of Team Kenya, or the squad that will be representing Kenya in this particular edition of CHAN, to be able to authoritatively make an objective critique, specifically on player selection, or the criteria used to select the squad that will represent Kenya in this particular edition of CHAN. So Kenya as a country, Kenya's local football is divided into 5 leagues, starting with the highest, that is the Kenya Premier League, followed by the National Super League, followed by the Division 1 League, followed at number 4 by the Regional League, and followed by number 5 by the County and Sub-County League. And a player-by-player analysis of the 25-man squad that has been selected to represent Kenya in this particular edition of CHAN, the 8th edition, shows that all the 25 players were selected from just one league of the 5 Kenyan football leagues, that is the Kenya Premier League. This is clearly against the spirit and law of this particular tournament, CHAN, because it's specially and strictly made to showcase the diversity of local football in each country, from the lowest leagues to the Premier League. But looking at Kenya's squad, all the 25 men have been picked from Kenya Premier League, neglecting and ignoring a wide pool of talent from the 4 other leagues, from the National Super League, from Division 1 League, from Regional League, from County League, and from the Sub-County League. And as I said, this is clearly a violation. It's clearly against the spirit and letter of CHAN. As a matter of fact, to demonstrate the seriousness the seriousness of CAF, the Confederation of African Football, in having CHAN as an opportunity to showcase the full diversity of local talent in all the 55 countries of Africa. And this is how CAF defines CHAN, and I quote, "CHAN tournament features only players who play in their national domestic leagues." Note the deliberate use of the word leagues by CAF. CAF does not say that you select your squad for CHAN from one league or from your country's Premier League. CHAN says CHAN tournament features only players who play in their national domestic leagues. That means, this is still from CAF's website, and I quote, "That means no European-based stars, only local talent representing their countries." Again, note the deliberate use of the word stars by CAF, the organization that manages all African football, saying that CHAN is not a tournament for stars. CHAN is in fact a star-making tournament. This is not a platform for your usual or our usual football stars. This is a tournament that is supposed to give an opportunity, a rare chance to the full diversity of local leagues in every country, starting from the lowest league to the Premier League of every country. CAF goes on to say that CHAN provides a springboard for emerging stars. Again, note the deliberate use of the word emerging stars, again showing how CAF is determined, how serious CAF is in making sure that CHAN is not a tournament for stars, but a tournament for emerging stars, meaning that CHAN is a tournament that is supposed to give a rare opportunity to that 19, to that 21, to that 24, to that 26, 28-year-old playing football, sometimes in bushy, sometimes in dusty footballs, deep in the village, to have an opportunity or a springboard, as CAF terms it, a springboard to represent their country in this particular tournament. CHAN, as we clearly can see from the definition of CHAN by CAF itself, it's a platform, a springboard for emerging stars, not just from one league, not just from a country's Premier League, but from all the domestic leagues in every country. For instance, in Kenya, the 25-man squad is, or ideally was supposed to feature talents from the sub-county league, talents, football talents from the county league, football talents from the regional league, football talent from Division 1 league, football talents from the National Super League, and of course the best of Kenya's local football at the level of Kenya Premier League. But as we can see from the 25-man squad that was selected by FKF and Harambee Stars technical staff, the entire squad unfortunately has players or footballers from Kenya's Premier League. Again, we can clearly see this is against the dictates, it's against the spirit and law of CHAN, according to the Confederation of African Football. The decision by FKF, the Football Kenya Federation, and Harambee Stars technical staff to select an entire 25-man squad to represent Kenya in this particular edition of CHAN from just one league is clearly against the dictates. It's clearly against the spirit and letter of CHAN, according to CAF. And most importantly, it's very demoralizing to the four other leagues of Kenya's local football. And I don't think FKF and Harambee Stars technical staff would have any excuse for not going to every sub-county. In fact, the spirit, or rather the dictates of CAF demand that the management of football in every country go to every sub-county, to every constituency. For instance, here in Kenya, FKF and Harambee Stars technical staff should have gone to every sub-county or the 290 constituencies of Kenya, scouting for talent and bringing them to camp, training them, and finally coming up with a well-balanced, a fair squad that shows the true face of Kenya's local football, Kenya's homegrown and home-based footballers, from the sub-county league to the county league to the regional league to the Division 1 league and to the National Super League, and finally at the topmost league of Kenya's local football, that is Kenya Premier League. And FKF and Harambee Stars technical staff may not have an excuse, because the decision to have Kenya, Uganda and Tanzania hosting this particular edition of CHAN was first made, or rather was made public on December 2023, meaning FKF and Harambee Stars technical staff had over a whole year to go to every village in Kenya, to go to every constituency in Kenya and scout for local talent. Go looking for that top scorer. Go looking for that best midfielder, best striker, best winger, best forward, best defender across all the 5 leagues of Kenya, in order to have a fair, a well-balanced team to represent Kenya according to the dictates, according to the definition, according to the spirit and law of CHAN, of giving an opportunity to the full diversity of local football in every country, and not just from one league or from the topmost or the Premier League of a country. In fact, there is one club in this country, but I will not mention the name, that has produced 7, get these 7 footballers in this current squad of CHAN. One club only has 7 players selected to represent Kenya in this particular edition of CHAN. And I was there asking and wondering, asking myself, so what happens, what if by any chance those 7 footballers make it to the first 11 of any team that will be representing Kenya in this particular edition of CHAN. The 7 players selected from just one Premier League club in Kenya, if by any chance they make it to the first 11 of any of the games that Kenya will be playing in this edition of CHAN, that technically will feel like a club match for them. And again, that shows how unfair and how biased FKF and Harambee Stars technical staff was in selecting the squad that will represent Kenya in this particular edition of CHAN. CAF defines it as a springboard for emerging stars and not for established or our usual stars. So if CHAN, this particular tournament, was meant to be a tournament for stars, then Team Kenya, Harambee Stars, would right now be under the captainship of Captain Michael Olunga, who is the current top scorer of Harambee Stars. The Pharaohs of Egypt would be here led by Mohamed Salah. The Atlas Lions of Morocco would be here led by Achraf Hakimi. The defending champions, the Lions of Teranga, would be here led by Sadio Mane. The Bafana would be here led by Pasi Tau. Guinea would be here led by Naby Keita. And Algeria, the Desert Foxes of Algeria would be here led by Riyad Mahrez. The Leopards of DR Congo would be here led by Cedric Bukambu. The Super Eagles of Nigeria would be here led by Victor Osimhen. And many other African giant, African football stars who will not be taking part in this tournament, because it's not a tournament for stars as a CAF strictly defines. It's not a tournament for our usual stars who play football in Europe, in those big leagues in Europe and other parts of the world. It's a tournament that is strictly, specifically, and specially made for home-based and homegrown African footballers to have a chance to showcase their skills on a continental level, and thereby also have an opportunity to secure themselves opportunities to play in other bigger clubs across Africa and outside of Africa. Whilst we may excuse FKF and Harambee Stars technical staff for really wanting to prove a point by selecting the entire 25-man squad from Kenya's Premier League and neglecting and ignoring talents, superb football talents from all the other 4 leagues of Kenya's football, in this historic first appearance for Kenya in this tournament, the mistake of prejudice, the mistake of stereotype, the mistake of bias and outright discrimination in selecting the squad to represent Team Kenya in future CHAN tournaments will not be tolerated or will not be accepted. And going forward, should Kenya qualify for any other edition of CHAN, we would want to see a very well-balanced, a very fairly selected and balanced team showcasing Kenya's football talent across all the 5 leagues as CAF demands of CHAN. We would want to see a 25-man squad with players from Kenya's sub-county league, the county league, the regional league, Division 1 league, the National Super League, and of course talents from Kenya's Premier League in future editions of CHAN.